Hello, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are finally doing the Bangerz Eras Analyzed video. I feel like from the very inception of the Eras Analyzed series, a lot of you guys were like, Bangerz, do Bangerz, and I get it because it's a classic album, it's a fun album, and as much as people remember Bangerz for the music on the album, a lot of the era, of course, is remembered for Miley's antics, and we gotta call it antics because it was antics. Like, let's be real, it was antics. So I just want to give my usual disclaimer before we get into the video that Eras Analyzed videos are not really album reviews, but instead are retrospective of the whole entire era. So let's go ahead and get into the Bangerz era and a lot of Miley's sort of commentary and reflection on the Bangerz era after it ended. To me, the Bangerz era begins when Miley debuts as Platinum Pixie Cut in August of 2012. It goes viral online and people start making memes and saying she looks like Draco Malfoy or Robin. For a while, Miley, who was 19 at the time, wore her hair in the same top bun, basically because her hair was fried, so a change was welcome. The haircut also further separated her from the image as Hannah Montana, which ended the year before in 2011. By this time, though she was on Disney, most knew Miley, at least publicly, as a bit of a wild child. Some of her prior scandals included a risque Annie Leibovitz Vanity Fair cover shot at age 15. The shoot, done in 2008, was conceived partly to begin separating Miley from Hannah Montana, which Miley was still filming. After the backlash over the cover, especially due to her bare back, Miley, Disney, and Annie all issued statements on the matter. Miley has since said that she doesn't regret the shoot and isn't sorry for it, and her family was on set the entire time.
My little sister Noah was sitting on Annie's lap and actually pushing the button of the camera, taking the pictures. My family was on set, and this was the first time I ever wore red lipstick because Patty Dubroff, who did my makeup, thought that that would be another element that would divide me from Hannah Montana. This image of me is a complete opposite of the bubblegum pop star that I had been known for being, and that's what was so upsetting.
There was also the 2019 Choice Awards, where Miley performed Party in the USA on top of an ice cream truck with a pole that people called a stripper pole. Miley later said the pole had been put up there for stability. On a few occasions, private photos of hers were leaked that made the news. Some of these were pictures of her smoking weed, which Miley later admitted resulted in her losing her deal with Walmart. Musically, Miley had released prior singles like Can't Be Tamed, which showed the edgier, less Disney-fied side of her. Can't Be Tamed was the title track of her 2010 album, her most recent before Bangerz. Can't Be Tamed was considered a commercial failure despite debuting at number 3, since Miley's previous album Breakout debuted at number 1 and sold about 3 times more in its first week. Part of I Can't Be Tamed's issue was that the album clearly tried to cater to Miley's personal taste as well as what Disney wanted from her. The album was her last one with Hollywood Records, a label under the Disney Music Group and through which their artists release. As Hannah Montana came to a close, Miley focused on acting, mostly in teen rom-coms like LOL and So Undercover. Miley's plan was actually to take a long break from music and focus more on her acting. In the spring of 2012, she announced her engagement to Liam Hemsworth, who she had met while co-starring in The Last Song. That year, she was also meant to star in Hotel Transylvania as Mavis, but was fired and later replaced by Selena Gomez. Miley said this was because she bought Liam a penis cake for his birthday and posted a picture of her licking it. After this incident, Miley decided to put acting on hold and make her return to music. This new album, according to Miley, would be her true debut album because she finally had creative control, and she said it would be her first album that she truly enjoyed making. In the beginning of 2013, Miley announced that she had signed to RCA Records and would work with Dr. Luke on the album. In the end, he only did one song for the record. Previously, he'd produced her hit Party in the USA, which at this point was Miley's best performing song on the Hot 100, peaking at number 2. Miley had also mentioned that she was working with producers like Pharrell, Hit Boy, and The Interns.
And you're doing that now. You've got some stuff in the works.
Yeah, I've been writing and working on my record. I've been in so many sessions and just really kind of, bunkering down and just working really hard and perfecting everything, and just I've never really had time to do that, to have my record, kind of done and then just sit there and make it until it's perfect. So it's been really, really fun. This whole year, that's all I've really kind of dedicated life to, so it's been good.
The album's first single, We Can't Stop, came in June of 2013. The mid-tempo pop song was a laid-back party anthem with references to drugs, drinking, and strip clubs. One of the most talked about lyrics was La-da-dee-da-dee, we like to party, dancing with Molly. Because people couldn't tell if Molly was saying her own name or referencing the drug ecstasy, for which Molly is a common nickname. Miley told Rolling Stone, I have an accent, so when I say Miley, it must sound like Molly. You're not allowed to say Molly on the radio, so it obviously says Miley. I knew people were going to wonder what I'm saying in that song. Still, that's not the only tongue-in-cheek drug reference we get and We Can't Stop. Cocaine is the most likely drug referenced by the "and everyone in line in the bathroom trying to get a line in the bathroom" line. On Genius, the lyric says Molly and not Miley, so I'm not sure if she was serious about the fact that she was actually saying Miley. But to be fair, I personally know that half the time that I'm saying Molly, it sounds like I'm saying Molly, so. We Can't Stop, produced by Michael Made It, P Nasty, and Rock City, by the way, is full of hip-hop references, with one even being in the same Molly Molly line that I mentioned. The La-Da-Dee-Da-Dee part references Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh's 1986 song, La-Dee-Da-Dee. Slick Rick opens the song saying, "La-Dee-Da-Dee, we like to party, we don't cause trouble, we don't bother nobody." La-Dee-Da-Dee is considered to be one of the most influential hip-hop songs of all time, and it's been sampled over 1,000 times. We Can't Stop makes several other hip-hop references, which really influenced quite a bit of this era, actually. We have phrases included in the song like haters and getting turned up, both of which have now entered the general lexicon. Other such phrases include being about that life and hands in the air like we don't care. Also within the video, Molly's eating alphabet soup that spells out the word twerk, and she also twerks in the video. We're going to come back to the twerking conversation here in a second. We Can't Stop was released to mixed reviews. Critics enjoyed the production, but several disliked the lyrics for forcing edginess or seemingly being a teenager's idea of what real partying looks like. Others felt the single to be a genuine effort from Miley and called We Can't Stop the song of the summer. And it did have a great run on the charts that summer, as the song peaked at number 2 in the US and at number 1 in the UK. In early August, Miley revealed the title of her album to be Bangerz. She tweeted, "If you don't know what my record is called Bangerz, you'll know as soon as you hear it. Nothing but Bangerz." At the time, Britney Spears was rumored to be a feature on the title track, which was later confirmed. Miley said that with Bangerz, she was excited to put forth a sexier and adult project. Weeks later, Miley gave what's likely the most infamous performance of her career, one of the most infamous at the VMAs, and maybe one of the most infamous in pop culture history. Miley opened the performance with We Can't Stop, surrounded by several dancers dressed as teddy bears. Miley herself was dressed in a bear outfit during the performance. At the end of the song, Robin Thicke came out to perform Blurred Lines, one of that summer's most popular songs. For that performance, Miley revealed a new two-piece outfit and picked up a foam finger, both of which I'm guessing were sort of supposed to evoke the also infamous Blurred Lines video. Miley and Robin sang the song together, and the performance was filled with a lot of twerking, gyrating, and Miley being inappropriate with the foam finger. Immediately after the performance, Miley was trending on social media, and news outlets couldn't report on it quickly enough. Some even called the performance potentially career-ending. The Parents Television Council, or the PTC, expressed their outrage and accused MTV of manipulating the content warnings for the ceremony, which allowed children to see adults-only content. Coincidentally, Miley's father, Billy Ray Cyrus, sat on the advisory board for the Parents Television Council. The PTC claimed, "MTV continues to sexually exploit young women by promoting acts that incorporate twerking in a nude-colored bikini. How is this image of a former child star, Miley Cyrus, appropriate for 14-year-olds? It wasn't necessarily the PTC's goal to change the nature of performances on MTV, but just to make sure the appropriate content ratings were applied. Over the years, it's been noted that Miley, who was 20 at the time, caught more heat for the performance than Robin Thicke, who at the time was 36. He did, however, face backlash after comments made in an Oprah interview about the performance. He claimed, "I'm twerked upon. I don't twerk myself, okay? I'm just twerked upon. I was on stage, I didn't see it, so to me, I'm walking out towards Miley and I'm not thinking sex, I'm thinking fun, you know?" Brooke Shields, who actually played Miley's mom in Hannah Montana, called Miley's VMA performance desperate. Brooke herself is a former child star who more recently has opened up about how Hollywood sexualized her from a young age and its impact on her. The inventor of the foam finger said that Miley, quote, "took an honorable icon that is seen in sporting venues everywhere and degraded it." On one hand, people were saying, Miley's 20, she's an adult and she can perform however she wants to. Not only did Miley's performance spark conversations about how the VMA standards have slipped over the years, which isn't necessarily true considering sexual performances had happened since the show's inception back in 1984. It also sparked a conversation that seems like happens nearly daily now, which is acknowledging that all adults over 18 don't possess the same level of maturity or life experience. An LA Times piece called Miley Cyrus Syndrome, Where Have All the Adults Gone, touched on this. The author, Megan Daum, noted that the standards for behavior that was considered adult, especially in terms of older adults like Gen Xers, were lower compared to previous generations. She claimed that now, which for the article was 2013, there was less of a distinction between expectations for how a 40-year-old adult should behave compared to, say, a 20-year-old adult, especially in the entertainment realm. Daum wrote, To watch even a few hours of primetime television or to view even a handful of widely circulated YouTube videos is to be reminded that 40 is not just the new 30, but in fact the new 18. In the real world, Dom noted that because of several social and financial reasons, adults were doing things like marrying, having children, and buying homes at an older age, which kept them in that younger adult mindset longer. Thought this was interesting to include because it's something that people are experiencing today, myself included in some aspects, that was written over a decade ago. Dom ended her piece writing, "Would we have been more appalled by Thick 30 years ago when men of his age were expected to not be gyrating on MTV, but lying around their friends' country houses declaring that all the best music had already been made? Almost certainly so. What's more, if Thick were a big chill character, he'd be waxing righteous about Motown legends rather than ripping them off, and that might have saved everyone a lot of grief." Aside from people saying that Miley's VMA performance was vulgar, messy, or otherwise scandalous, she also faced backlash for appropriating Black culture. At this point in the era, this was mostly due to the twerking and AAVE use. In interviews, Miley made it clear that she didn't see things that way. She told Rolling Stone, "People are like, Miley thinks she's a Black girl, but she's got the flattest ass ever. I'm like, I'm 108 pounds, I know. Now people expect me to come out and twerk with my tongue out all the time. I'll probably never do that shit again." During the Bangerz era, twerking, or Miley's version of it, became so associated with her that people credited her with popularizing it or even creating twerking, neither of which are true. To give a brief history of twerking, it originates from a dance popular in West Africa, primarily the Ivory Coast. Historians have noted its similarity to the Mapuka dance, where the buttocks is emphasized, but it's not considered to be a sexual or suggestive dance. In the 1990s, an Americanized version of the dance called twerking became more popular. The dance became something done mainly by Black women in hip-hop and R&B videos and at clubs, dances, and things of the like. Songs from the 90s and 2000s that reference twerking include DJ Jubilee's Do the Jubilee All, the Ying Yang Twins' Whistle While You Twerk, and Lil Jon's Get Low. Destiny's Child even has an unreleased song called Twerk, which is about a man in the club who falls in love with the way they twerk. So it's a dance that had cultural significance and standing long before Miley decided to showcase her version in her videos and on the VMA's stage. A quote from an article from Black Then, which details the history of twerking, said about Miley, "Privilege has allowed many white performers to take elements from Black culture and use it for shock value and in turn take responsibility for creating it without giving credit to the originators. In the case of Miley Cyrus, it was a horribly misguided attempt to get away from her squeaky clean image as a Disney star and gain respect or street cred. Her performance made a mockery out of a dance that is deeply rooted in Black history and culture." To return to August 25th, which is the day the VMA's performance took place, on that same day, Miley released Banger's second single, Wrecking Ball. The single was another mid-tempo pop song, this time an emotional ballad. The production swells and recedes, shifting from a stilted, almost piano, almost video game-like sound on the verses, and bursts with electronic production on the chorus. Wrecking Ball is about the destruction of a relationship where, despite the speaker's best efforts, all her partner ever really did was hurt her. Wrecking Ball was actually written with Beyoncé in mind, maybe for her self-titled album that also came out that year, but I'm not sure. The rumor started after Sasha Scarbeck, one of the writers, tweeted, "Beyoncé's song now becoming a Miley Cyrus song? Good? Bad? I don't know." When Wrecking Ball came out, fans thought this was the former Beyoncé song in question. Though Wrecking Ball debuted at number 50 on the Hot 100, it eventually topped the charts, becoming Miley's first #1 single. Coincidentally, this was the only track that Dr. Luce produced on Bangerz. Critics seem to enjoy Wrecking Ball more universally than We Can't Stop. Some even call the ballad an instant classic, likening it to Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On or Sinead O'Connor's Nothing Compares to You, especially in terms of the video for the latter. Miley did say this video inspired the Wrecking Ball video and that Sinead O'Connor was an artist who inspired her in general. The Wrecking Ball video was released about 2 weeks after the single. In it, Miley sings to the camera with a teary, intense close-up, intercut with scenes of her swinging on a wrecking ball, nude at points, and breaking down walls with a sledgehammer. Also, because it was 2013, there was heavy focus on the Doc Martens. Because of the nudity in the video, Miley again received some backlash. Initially, Miley urged people to put aside their hang-ups over the video so that they could focus on the song and its meaning. Years later, she revealed she actually regrets doing the video because it made her known as the girl swinging naked on the wrecking ball. It likely didn't help that the song and the video were also so heavily memed. In response to the Wrecking Ball video, and especially because Miley said it was inspired by her, Sinead O'Connor penned Miley an open letter. The letter urged Miley to be careful in her decision-making in her career and wary of the decisions those around her made. Part of it reads, I'm extremely concerned for you that those around you have led you to believe or encouraged you in your own belief that it is anyway cool to be naked and licking sledgehammers in your videos. It is in fact the case that you will obscure your talent by allowing yourself to be pimped, whether it's the music business or yourself doing the pimping. Nothing but harm will come in the long run from allowing yourself to be exploited, and it is absolutely not in any way an empowerment of yourself or any other young women for you to send across this message that you are to be valued, even by you, more for your sexual appeal than your obvious talent. I am happy to hear I'm somewhat of a role model for you, and I hope that because of that you will pay close attention to what I am telling you. Just pause to read the rest of Sinead's letter. In response, Miley tweeted a screenshot of post from what was likely some sort of mental health crisis that Sinead had the previous year. Miley captioned the series of tweets, "Before Amanda Bynes, there was." The Amanda Bynes stray was a reference to Amanda's recent erratic behavior, which resulted in arrests. Amanda later revealed she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and manic depression. Sinead responded with another open letter, criticizing Miley for making fun of her mental health and also Amanda's in the process. Sinead also claimed Miley was behaving like a prostitute and calling it feminism, and was an anti-female tool of the anti-female music industry. Miley's intent was questioned for releasing Wrecking Ball, such an emotional song and video, and a complete 180 from We Can't Stop in the VMA performance. Some believe the move was a form of damage control, while others thought it was a calculated plan to gain attention with outrage, and then silence critics by proving there would be music of substance on Bangerz too. On the eve of her hosting SNL, USA Today published an article on why some of Miley's recent moves might have been part of an ingenious marketing plan. They questioned, is this yet another example of a wholesome American icon hitting the career skids with an ill-advised descent into depravity, or a strategic play to 20-somethings whose sense of sonic and sexual adventure Miley is merely mirroring? According to Miley's manager, Larry Rudolph, Miley was making her own career decisions and was doing a good job of it. Rudolph, who also managed Britney Spears, claimed that he told Britney way back when that she'd have to have thick skin in order to make an impact on pop culture, something he said Miley knew as well. USA Today noted the stir Miley made surrounding her career generated $79 million in free TV exposure. This likely helped Wrecking Ball soar in popularity, the video for which got a record-breaking 19.3 million views in its first day. Also on August 25th, so jumping back just a little, Miley revealed the Bangerz cover. So again, same day as the VMA performance, same day as Wrecking Ball comes out. Actually, I think she technically may have tweeted the cover the night before, and it was just reported on the next day, which was August 25th. The cover was inspired by those of 80 Records, evidenced by the neon sign title, the gradient, and the geometric layout of the photos. I'm not sure if the suit that Miley's wearing is a nod to 80s power dressing. The Bangerz cover was noted for its similarity to the style and logo for Miami Vice, a crime drama series that ran from 1984 to 1989. Moving into September again, a lot happens for Miley in September as well. For one, she and Liam Hemsworth called off their engagement after nearly 4 years together. According to a source, it was Miley's decision after coming to grips with Liam being what she believed to be was less than faithful to her. Just days before the breakup announcement, 23, a single on which Miley features, was released. 23 also features rappers Juicy J and Wiz Khalifa. Miley was included on it because Mike Will Made It, who produced 23 with P Nasty, decided his own verse didn't work, so he recruited her. He was already working with Miley on Bangerz as executive producer. While many critics found the production to be a high point of 23, few said the same about Miley's rapping. Again in this song, Miley references drugs, this time marijuana, which she apparently smokes while wearing a combination of shades, several tattoos, a miniskirt, and her J's, meaning Jordans. This is the reason why the song's called 23. It's a reference to Michael Jordan and Jordans. Jordans are one of the most popular shoes in hip-hop culture, and the shoe and the brand have been noted for playing a large role in the crossover between basketball and hip-hop culture. Air Jordans, made in 1985, really crossed over into the pop culture zeitgeist in 1989, thanks to Spike Lee's film Do the Right Thing. In terms of Bangerz, Miley said she wanted the album to have a lot of hip-hop too, hence her working with Mike Will Made It. She described Bangerz as a combination of country music and dirty South hip-hop. To capture the making and early promotions of Bangerz, Miley's documentary, Miley the Movement, aired on MTV. Within the documentary, Miley notes that she doesn't apologize for anything and is excited for the first time in her career to control her image and where and how it's used.
You're always gonna make people talk. You might as well make them talk for like 2 weeks rather than 2 seconds.
She also revealed she didn't want to make any more movies and would continue to focus on music. According to the documentary's wiki, Miley the Movement received mixed reviews. Critics found the majority of her commentary to be genuine, but noted she didn't spend much time talking about her recent controversies. Miley the Movement was intended to be one of the final promotional tools before Bangerz' release. Technically, the album was already out, as its official release date is noted as September 30th. However, several other sources say Bangerz came out on October 4th, with Miley the Movement coming days before on October 2nd. So maybe the October 4th date was when the physical copies were released, but I'm not entirely sure. On the week of October 16th, Bangerz debuted atop the Billboard 200, selling 270,000 copies in its first week. This was 168,000 more than Can't Be Tamed sold, and was the year's best first week sales by a female artist until Katy Perry's Prism came a few weeks later. Bangerz is a bit of a mixed bag. There are several genres on it, from EDM to hip-hop to R&B to country. There are party hits, or bangers I should say, but also heartfelt ballads, breakup songs, and self-confident pop. The title rings true in that the most common thread in the album is just that they're good songs that encapsulate a lot of emotions and experiences of young adulthood, from the happiest to saddest, from the wildest to the most subdued. Like the album's cover, several songs on Bangerz sound like a 2010s take on classic sounds across the genres the album employs. The album's title track, SMS Bangerz, sounds heavily inspired by Salt and Peppa's Push It, especially on the intro. I always thought this, finally looked into it for this video, and the inspiration is confirmed. SMS, which also stands for a text message, means strutting my stuff within the song. The Michael Made It produced song blends synths, a heavy bass line, and kick drums. To me, it always reminded me kind of those elite cheer mashups. Within SMS, Miley maintains that her career comes first, and she doesn't have time for wishy-washy men. Sean Garrett, one of the writers, said the song was meant to be a female anthem, similar to what Salt and Peppa did with Push It. It had been Mike Will's idea to have Britney feature on SMS because she was another artist that no one really expected to hear rap. Gwen Stefani was also someone they'd considered. Miley actually wanted SMS to be a single on Bangerz, and even at one point expressed wanting to shoot a video for it. According to Songfacts, the video and single were shelved because Britney injured herself. I think the country pop fusion Miley mentioned can be heard best on tracks like 4x4, hashtag Get It Right, and Do My Thing. Fun fact, 4x4, produced by Pharrell and featuring Nelly, was sampled in Alt J's song Hunger of the Pine. The sample is the part where Miley sings I'm a female rebel, which honestly could be the thesis statement for Bangerz. Do My Thing frustrates me because Miley kills the chorus and it sounds very her, but the rapping, it just sends me into little A's. The song was produced by will.i.am and it's pretty much entirely hip-hop. The country to me really comes in the twangy way that Miley sings and raps, and it sounds like she may even be playing up her accent at points. Bangerz also includes features from rappers Big Sean, Ludacris, Future, and French Montana. feud, the song that Miley did with French Montana, is actually one of my favorites on Bangerz, though it doesn't really seem like critics agree. It's rage-filled dubstep, also combined with what sounds like electronic waltz music. The title comes from the phrase, and throughout the song, Miley shuns an ex who cheated. French Montana is the one who brings the hip-hop to FU, as it's mostly pop and Miley doesn't really rap. Vocally, I think FU is one of Miley's strongest songs on Bangerz, which aside from the production is also what makes it a favorite. It's like the waltzy part of it brings the romance, or what should have been romance, how the relationship should be and feel, and the dubstep is the musical equivalent of the reality of the relationship breaking down and the anger that results. I can agree with critics, though, who say that the French Montana feature doesn't add much to the already packed song. To me, Miley's at her best on Bangerz and a lot of the more pop-influenced tracks. I think in part it's because she's actually singing on those, and it sounds more earnest coming from her than any of her rapping. Another standout for me is On My Own. To be fair, this is a deluxe track, though. It's another Pharrell track in which Miley asserts her independence. It comes after the realization that her relationship was one-sided, and so she resolves only to rely on herself because she's all she has. On My Own is more up-tempo dance pop with a funky guitar line. Even though quite a lot is happening with the production, Miley does deliver another stunning vocal performance, and the rasp in her voice works perfectly for this track. Another notable song on Bangerz is Someone Else, which is the closing track on the standard version of the album. Fittingly, Miley sings about how much she's changed internally as well. Part of this change was growing up and realizing love often isn't like it's depicted in movies. This is especially meaningful considering she met her ex Liam on the set of a romance film. At the end of Someone Else, Miley repeats, love is patient, love is selfless, love is hopeful, love is kind. Love is jealous, love is selfish, love is hopeless, love is blind. This is a reference to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4. It reads, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. Despite how sad Someone Else is tonally, Miley pours her heart out over another spinning Mike will produce beat. It's bass heavy and at parts sounds cloudy as if a storm is rolling in. The electronic production trickles through the chorus almost like raindrops, making a song about heartbreak and relationship turmoil into a literal banger. Reviews of Bangerz were mostly positive. On Metacritic, it has a critic score of 61 and a user score of 7.5, both indicating generally positive reviews. Entertainment Weekly, who rated Bangerz a 91, said about the album, "It's utterly fresh, a pop blitz from a hip-hop blueprint, and proof that Miley won't settle for just shocking us." Billboard praised Miley not just for having all eyes on her, but actually putting forth a worthy project while she had people's attention. They wrote, "Pop purveyors have expressed extremely diverse reactions to Cyrus's recent music and antics, but in a season in which Britney Spears, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, and Justin Timberlake are all releasing new albums, Bangerz is the album everyone is craning their necks toward because Cyrus is the artist that everyone's talking about." They did note, however, that it felt like Bangerz contained too many breakup songs. I'm not sure how many were planned for the album initially, but Miley's engagement ending likely influenced this a bit, especially if there was trouble before the official breakup. To Billboard, standouts on Bangerz included 4x4 and Get It Right. Get It Right is also produced by Pharrell, by the way. Billboard wasn't fond of FU, calling the song manic, and while they enjoyed Miley's performance on My Darlin', they felt Future's presence took away from the song, especially with all the auto-tune and echo on his voice. The song actually interpolates Benny King's Stand By Me, which inspires the song's title. Vulture, on the other hand, found Bangerz to be decent, but their major criticism was Miley spent too much time reminding people she wasn't a kid anymore. Additionally, they claimed the album sounded very reminiscent of, yet less potent than, works of Miley's then label-mate Kesha. Vulture wrote, "At the center of it all, Miley can't help but sound a tad reduced. Neither the great Satan nor a great talent, just another pop diva with modest presence and a bunch of tracks from high-priced songwriter-producers. She does have good instincts, she's been in show business for a while. She isn't a great singer, but she has a distinctive vocal tone, a huskiness in her mid-range that gives her songs, especially the ballads, a bit of chewiness and zest. She also raps and rap-sings and does so ably, though not nearly as well as her hero, Nicki Minaj, or even with the madcap panache of Kesha. In fact, Kesha looms large over Bangerz, the obvious model for Miley's makeover." I think reading this review is actually the first time I've heard someone say Miley's not a great singer. In December of 2013, Miley released Adore You, the final single from Bangerz, and also the opening track. It's a slower, affectionate ballad produced by Oren Yoel. Basically, it's framed around when someone tells you they love you and you respond, "I love you more." Throughout Adore You, Miley professes she's found the love of her life. She sings in the bridge, "I could do this for eternity, you and me, we're meant to be in holy matrimony." Adore You is even more bittersweet when thinking about Miley and Liam's breakup months earlier. Critics praised the vulnerability Miley shows in the song and noted it was a risky choice to open Bangerz with Adore You. Adore You was compared to other ballads of Miley's like Wrecking Ball on the album, The Climb in her earlier years, and is now considered another one of her classic ballads. The single peaked at number 21 in the Hot 100, making it the lowest charting of the 3 singles from Bangerz. When considering how much hip-hop influenced Bangerz, it's interesting that all the album's singles are ballads and mid-tempo pop. Thematically, both Wrecking Ball and Adore You, so 2 of the 3 singles, showed a more vulnerable and loving side to Miley than a lot of the party-driven tracks. Yes, SMS was almost a single, but I'm surprised none of Miley's rapper collabs were put forth as banger singles, or at the very least just weren't chosen. I think 4x4 would have been a great choice, and thinking about how Pharrell was dominating at the time, it likely would have performed pretty well. Ironically, Miley said she'd been cautioned against working with him on Bangerz because Pharrell hadn't had a hit song in years. I don't at all think Bangerz is a bad album. I listen to a lot of the songs on it still, and I've said as much before. I do think what made this era so controversial, and rightly so, was Miley's leaning into so much stereotype and shock value to get her point across. It's not inherently bad to work with black artists or want to incorporate rap or hip-hop into your music. However, at points it crossed over into not just coming off as Miley's affinity for hip-hop, but a means to an end to separate as far from the Disney image as possible. Call, writing for Complex magazine, compiled a detailed list of several occasions on which Miley either appropriated black culture or where her understanding of the optics of her behavior seemed dubious at best. Sticking to ones from the Bangerz era, examples include her wearing grills, the majority of the lyrics in 23, especially the High Off Perp one, and Miley being accused of using black backup dancers as props during live performances, music videos, and on tour. In response to this, mostly in terms of the We Can't Stop video and the dancers in it, Miley told Billboard, "People said I was taking advantage of black culture, and with Mike, what the fuck? That wasn't true, those were the dancers I liked." In a separate Rolling Stone interview, she said about it, "I don't keep my producer dancers around because it makes me look cool. Those aren't my accessories, they're my homies. I think what's missed here is that both of those things can be true on some level. You can simultaneously like someone and also keep them around because they help you construct a certain image. In February of 2014, Miley embarked on the Bangerz tour, which lasted until October of that year. A show in the Dominican Republic was actually canceled, with moral reasons being cited. Across 78 shows, the Bangerz tour grossed $68.9 million. The show had several set pieces, including a slide modeled after Miley's face, a golden Monte Carlo, and a floating hot dog she rode on. During one point, Miley simulates fellatio on a man wearing a Bill Clinton mask, a nod to the scandal between himself and Monica Lewinsky in the late 90s. Some of Miley's eye-catching costumes were inspired by marijuana or money, while her backup dancers at one point dressed like chickens and others were dressed like furries. Several reviews, The Guardian being one of them, claimed that while the Bangerz tour was raunchy and irreverent, overall it was still a commendable show. While a former child star making a point about adopting a more mature image isn't new, they felt the sexual nature of Miley's concert made her assertion of her adulthood feel relentless. Despite this, The Guardian claimed, "But that's not to say Cyrus's live show isn't entertaining. Quite the opposite. It's so gleefully, dementedly, cartoonishly vulgar that it's almost impossible to not be entertained." Miley's stage presence and vocals were also praised by critics who attended the tour. Aside from being criticized for her tour's vulgarity, Miley was again accused of appropriating Black culture and also exploiting it within her show. When asked about this in an interview with MSNBC, Miley responded, "It's really funny how serious people take it. And they're like, 'You're racist.' And I'm like, 'Really? We're like a bunch of kids dancing around in like bears, but we don't do choreography. They're just like dancing, doing these cute moves, and they're awesome dancers like just on their own. It's not me telling them how to be, or making them feel sexual and beautiful." That's a common thing that I've noticed while working on this video. In interviews where Miley was asked to examine the optics of her choices, whether they may be exploitative, appropriative, or just tone deaf, her response was usually something along the lines of, "No, because I like these people and we're having fun." There's never really any space held for the idea that two things can be true at once, like I mentioned earlier with the dancers and the producers. It almost felt like, in a way, Miley was so adamant about having control over this era, which she wasn't granted before, that it almost made her averse not just to criticism, but examining her choices lest it make her feel like she's being controlled again. Similar criticisms were applied to her inclusion of little people in her show, who were also viewed as being included for shock value. According to an article published by NME, Hollis Jane, one of Miley's dancers, said she felt exploited while performing with Miley at the VMAs. She said performing with Miley was degrading, and the first time she felt she was being used for her height rather than her talent. Hollis clarified that she didn't place all the blame on Miley, as it's unfortunately common that little people are viewed and used as jokes within the media. After the Bangerz era ended, and so did the era for Miley's next album, Miley Cyrus and Her Dead Pets, she came under fire for some critical comments she made regarding hip-hop culture. By the way, Miley again worked with Mike Wilmated on Dead Pets, which came out in 2015, but it was a lot more psychedelia experimental influence than Bangerz. Even the songs that Mike Will produced have a more retro hip-hop sound compared to a lot of his others. Throughout both eras, rumors swirled that the pair was secretly dating, though it was never confirmed. In 2017, Miley did a cover story with Billboard in which she addressed her transition out of hip-hop influenced music. This was shortly after the release of Malibu, a folky soft rock single that seemed like a return to form for Miley. There is also a clear rebrand with her wearing a soft white dress and pigtails and sort of putting on this more pure, demure, stripped down image. This, of course, was a stark contrast from how she portrayed herself in the Bangerz era and even Dead Pets, during which Miley was accused again of appropriation over things like wearing dreads. In the Billboard cover story interview, Miley mentions her new music being inspired by folk singer Melanie Safka, then briefly mentions Kendrick Lamar's Humble as being one of the few hip-hop songs that she can stomach. She said, "Show me something natural like ass with some stretch marks. I love that because it's not come sit on my dick, suck on my cock. I can't listen to that anymore. That's what pushed me out of the hip-hop scene a little. It was too much Lamborghini, got my Rolex, got a girl on my cock. I am so not that." To my knowledge, Miley never really commented on the misogyny or objectification or materialism common in hip-hop while she was still trying to align herself with that community. This sentiment is kind of in line with another tone-deaf statement that Miley made in regards to Bangerz years before in 2013. She told Billboard, "A lot of people wanted to try to make me the white Nicki Minaj. That's not what I'm trying to do. I love hood music, but my talent is as a singer." A lot of people didn't take too kindly to Miley's statements because for the past few years, she tried her best to convince people that the sort of person she portrayed herself as in the Bangerz era was genuinely her, and that was the kind of music that represented her. Several times when critics and interviewers and even other celebrities pushed back on this, Miley doubled down. In addition, her statements came off as she was putting down the culture she based quite a bit of her previous albums, primarily Bangerz, on, and felt the work on her new album, Younger Now, would be more substantial and representative of her. In 2019, Miley later apologized for her comments made in the Billboard cover story interview. The apology was made in the comments section of a YouTube video called Miley Cyrus is my problematic fave. Sorry. The video was posted by As Told by Kenya, who is a personal fave, by the way. Part of the apology reads, "Being silent is not like me at all. I'm aware of my platform and have always used it the best way I know how and to shine a light on injustice. I want to start with saying I'm sorry. I own the fact that saying this pushed me out of the hip-hop scene a little wasn't sensitive, as it is a privilege to have the ability to dip in and out of this scene. There are decades of inequality that I am aware of, but still have a lot to learn about." The whole comment and apology is on the screen, just pause to read. Kenya calling Miley a problematic fave rings true for a lot of people, especially when thinking about the Bangerz era. Because while Bangerz is a fun album, the music doesn't exist in a vacuum and doesn't come without the existence of Miley's problematic behaviors and expressions during the era. A decade later, to commemorate August 25th, 2013, Miley released her most recent single, Used to Be Young, on the same date this year. In the ballad, Miley sings about how much she's changed throughout the years and throughout her many eras. In the beginning of the chorus, she says, "I know I used to be crazy, I know I used to be fun, you say I used to be wild, I say I used to be young." To promote the ballad in the backyard sessions for her album Endless Summer Vacation, Miley took a look back at her career, which included several moments from the Bangerz era. One of the revelations that Miley made was that she didn't make a cent on the Bangerz tour, according to her. She wanted her creative vision to be fulfilled literally at all costs. Since the tour was so heavy with set pieces and props, several of which were custom made, Miley struggled to find people to help her execute her vision.
She goes like, how would you want to end this concert? Like, the show is so big, how do you end it? And I wanted to end it in a Truman Show reference. So I flew out on a giant hot dog, obviously, and I left through all the clouds and the exit sign the way that Jim Carrey does, because I felt like the Truman Show was really a reflection of my life. I didn't make a dime on this tour because I wanted the tour to be excellent. And when everyone kept saying, "Why are you doing this? You're gonna do like 100 shows and you're not gonna make any money," I said, there's no one I would rather invest in than myself.
Also in the Used to Be Young series, Miley addressed her feud with Sinead O'Connor. Sadly, Sinead passed away unexpectedly about a month prior on July 26th. Miley reflected on the feud, saying,
You know, younger childhood triggers and traumas come up in weird and odd ways. And I think I had just been judged for so long for my own choices that I was just exhausted. And I was in this place where I finally was making my own choices and my own decisions. And to have that taken away from me deeply upset me. God bless Sinead O'Connor, for real, in all seriousness.
In the sessions, Miley dedicated her performance of her song Wonder Woman to Sinead. In early August, the 10th anniversary edition of Bangerz was announced. The album contains all of the tracks on Bangerz, including the deluxe ones, with the addition of 23 as a bonus track. Not only is Bangerz Miley's most controversial album in era to date, it's also her best-selling as Miley, so not counting any releases as Hannah Montana, as the record has gone over 3 times platinum. All right, that is Bangerz for you guys. A little bit more information on the era, my thoughts, my opinions, my perspectives as well. And it's just an era that it seems like it's the era that keeps on giving, because it was a decade ago, which makes me feel a little bit old, because I remember the VMAs performance. I remember the album dropping. I remember We Can't Stop. And yeah, aside from the music, like I said, there's also just so much social things to tackle within the Bangerz era. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot to handle. It's a lot to take in. But as always, let me know your thoughts on Bangerz. Let me know your feelings. Let me know where you would rank it within Miley's discography. I think I flip-flop between, do I like Bangerz more, do I like Plastic Hearts more, because for me, as much as I love Miley's singles, which I've talked about, those are the 2 albums for me, and I don't know which one is my favorite. It depends on my mood, but I love both of them, and I'm very eager to hear what you think in the comments down below. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can stick around for more. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with me there, and if you'd like to become a channel member, the link is in the video description. Again, thank you so much for watching. I love you all so very much, and we'll see you so very soon. Bye-bye.